there's one mindset shift that has a ridiculously large impact on your music. You'll be familiar with the idea already, and it will probably seem so simple that it can't be true. But you're probably not familiar with the huge amounts of research that back this up and which show just how big a deal it is. Hi, I'm Morley-Fletcher from Play in the Zone. I bring you regular videos on how to improve much faster as a musician while having more fun and enjoying your music more. Possibly the single most important thing you can do to help your playing in the long term is to have an optimistic mindset. In this video, I'm going to share exactly what that means, because most people get it slightly wrong, why it's so important, and I'm going to share some of the research on just how big an impact it has. I think you might be surprised. So, what does this concept of optimism mean? Well, it refers to what's known as your explanatory style. So how you explain events that happen to you. And in this case, how you explain adverse events, so challenging events, problems that happen to you. And an optimistic explanatory style, so what we're calling optimism here, is going to look at things as being local and temporary and due to circumstances. So local, it's just in this one area. It doesn't happen everywhere in every single thing that I do that's like this. Temporary, it's just happening for this time. It's not like it's happened now and I'm stuck with it forever, or I'm forever doomed to, repeat the same mistake. And due to circumstances. So there is stuff out there that is causing this bad thing to happen to me. It's not my own fault. So in contrast, the pessimistic explanatory style, so pessimistic outlook, would be to say that things are global, they apply everywhere, they're permanent, this bad thing has happened now and it's going to keep happening forever, or more bad things are going to keep happening to me forever. And you're going to look at them as your own fault. So not that something out there was challenging, or I didn't get enough sleep last night, but I messed this up and it's totally down to me, and this mistake is totally my fault. And to go on with those other things, when you've done that, you might look at that and say, I made this one mistake here. That means I am someone who makes mistakes everywhere. That's a global way of looking at it. And I've made this mistake. I always make this mistake. I'm going to keep making it again and again and again. I've got no way to get out of it. So that's the pessimistic look at things. And quite a lot in there. And we don't always need to worry about all the details of it, though it's useful to know a bit of it. There's a really nice, quick way of capturing what it means to have an optimistic outlook that I've got from Dr. Michael Gervais, sports psychologist. I like his succinct way of putting it, where he just says, optimism is that feeling that something good is about to happen. And optimism is not about denying the bad things. It's not about claiming that everything is perfect. So that concept, something good is about to happen, doesn't mean everything's going to go perfectly, everything's going to go all right. It's just there is some good coming up round the corner. So again, it's not this positive thinking where I'm imagining all the outcomes are perfect. It's not denying reality. It's not sugarcoating things to say that the situation is much better than it should be. It's just that when challenging things happen, I'm not stuck thinking, right, that's it. It's all over, disaster. And I'm not denying that something bad has happened. I'm not claiming that something completely unrealistic is going to happen in the future to change it. But I'm saying, I'm convinced that there is some good stuff that is going to happen. And as often as not, with that is going to be, I'm going to take some responsibility for helping to make that good stuff happen as well. I'm not just going to sit here and wait for good things to happen to me, but I'm actively going to engage with that belief, yes, we're going to get some good stuff coming out of it. And it may not be the perfect thing, it may not be exactly what I want, but I'm taking the attitude that we're going to get some good things coming our way, and I can be instrumental in helping that happen. And this gets us on to why optimism is such a powerful tool, such a powerful ally for you. Because what it does is it helps you to persevere in the face of setbacks. It stops you falling into that mode of feeling helpless and just letting things happen to you, and something bad has happened and now we're going to slide downhill. It keeps you trying. Once you're thinking that some good things can happen, are going to happen, you can then get on board and help that come about. You keep trying, you keep persevering, And that is what, in the long run, has a huge impact on everything you do. And we'll get into the research, the science on that in just a second. But the final thing to say before that is another misconception about optimism. It's not that people with an optimistic outlook don't see the things that happen to them as bad or don't feel these setbacks and feel discouraged. Actually, when you look at optimistic people and pessimistic people, that initial reaction to something bad happening, a negative event, is just the same. Everyone gets discouraged, everyone gets knocked down a bit. What is different is that response after that initial setback. Everyone has that initial discouragement, but the optimistic frame of mind means that you get up much quicker and you get back to where you were and you keep moving forward. Whereas with the pessimistic outlook, you get knocked down and you stay down. And sometimes it's for weeks or months, or sometimes in some particular areas, it may mean you've had this discouraging event and that's it. You've just decided no point anymore, never getting back up again for that particular thing. So it's really easy to think that there are just two ingredients for success, and they are talent and motivation. But the research shows that there is a third ingredient, optimism, and that it is equally as important as the other two. And furthermore, it's a learned behavior, so it's one that we can all develop for ourselves. And what's really interesting is the research shows that this applies across a huge number of different areas. So it predicts success at school, at work, in the military, soldiers who've signed up to join elite units, whether they succeed or not, in sports, a whole load of areas. And in fact, even when you look into health and how well we age, optimism plays a huge role there as well. And it can be really easy to think, well, of course there's an association. When people are successful, they become more optimistic because they've had more good things work out for them. But actually, the research shows that it goes both ways. Being optimistic to start out with is also one of the things that just makes you more successful as a result. So the take home from this is the race doesn't go to just the most talented. It's not success is purely down to talent. What you need for success is an adequate amount of talent and optimism. That's that hugely important factor. So, as I've said, there are literally hundreds of studies that back this up across all fields. But there's one particular one I wanted to share with you because I think it's really interesting, but also it has some very definite implications for us as musicians, I think. And this is from a swimming team. And at the end of the season, they set up a controlled experiment to put the swimmers into this condition of suffering a setback. So what they got them to do was they got them to swim their best event, and at the end of it, rather than telling them the real time they'd got, they told them a false time where they'd added on some time so that it was a significantly worse but still believable performance. And they looked at what effect this had on people, and then they got them to swim the same event again after a rest. And what was really interesting is they had judged it quite well. There was a definite impact. One swimmer apparently, sat and rocked in a ball for a while on hearing how well he'd done. So this is something where it's had a definite serious impact on them. But when they got them to swim the race again, the swimmers who had an optimistic explanatory style, an optimistic outlook, they either matched their original time, the real time, or in some cases they even improved on it. Whereas the swimmers with the pessimistic explanatory style, they did even worse than their first time. So same impact, a negative setback, knockback on that unexpected poor result the first time, completely different results depending on whether there was the optimistic or pessimistic outlook. So the optimists either stayed the same despite the setback or even improved, whether the pessimists, from hearing about this negative consequence, it just took their performance down another level when they did it again. So think about what this means for yourself in the practice room, in performance. When we have a pessimistic outlook, when those setbacks come along, and they always will, because there's no way in any meaningful creative thing like music that you're never going to have a bad day, you're never going to have a setback. If you're in the practice room and you have a bad day, you have a bad set of things, and you've got this pessimistic outlook, it is going to impact the rest of your practice, maybe that day, maybe for the rest of the week, maybe onwards. And again, for a bad performance, you have a bad experience in the performance that may, with a pessimistic outlook, that may cause the rest of the performance to go downhill. It may cause you to feel less confident and perform less well in future performances. Whereas the optimistic outlook is what allows you to keep practicing well, even after a setback, keep performing well after a setback, and think about how much that adds up over time. It's a completely different path. Small differences in how you react to setbacks over time become completely different trajectories in your growth as a musician. Now, it's beyond the scope of this video to go into all the details of how you can train optimism, but ultimately it comes down to your beliefs, because that initial setback is the same for both optimists and pessimists. The facts of that don't change. What changes is your reaction to it, and how you react to that is based on your beliefs of what that initial circumstance means. So long term, the way to get around this, get into this optimistic outlook, is to work on your beliefs. If you want the in-depth work on beliefs, then check out my course, Unlock My Performance. Or my recent video on the Tetris effect has a 3 good things exercise, which is a great basic way to start. I'll put links to both in the description below. And if you'd like the special practice and performance tips that I only share with subscribers, then head on over to playinthezone.com and sign up for the emails. They're free. I've been Morley-Fletcher. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.